everyone, and welcome to the KeenGamer podcast. I'm your host, Sparkle Callahan, and we have a great episode for you guys today. Returning to the podcast, the guy who's so excited to say "Fly Eagles Fly" next week. We got Noah Rosenthal. Noah, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Mark. I can't say that the Giants are.
It's more fall Giants fall, or maybe rise Giants rise to the first pick of the draft, but who knows? But this is not the Keen Sports podcast yet. This is the KeenGamer podcast where we talk about all the gaming news and gaming topics that you want to talk about. And we are excited today because in honor of Last of Us Part 1 remake, we'll be talking about our favorite gaming remakes. And then we also have news stories like, again, Ubisoft leaks going to be Ubisoft leaks, leaking the next main Assassin's Creed game, and some Microsoft news regarding the Activision and Halo. But before we get to that, let's talk about the games we're playing. And Noah, this might be the toughest thing I've done for this site. So if you don't know, and it'll be posted when this podcast goes up, I'm writing The Last of Us Part 1 remake. And it's so tough to talk about a remake with this much like contention on here. And it's not that I'm like afraid. It's like, am I gonna get some like, ooh, show paid by PlayStation, which I'm not, but you know those comments. And if you don't know, check out the comments on the part 2 Last of Us. It is a doozy. But and it's more of like, do I give this a 10, Noah, or do I not?
When it comes to giving tens, the question I kind of ask myself is is this thing so unbelievably excellent that there's literally nothing that this developer or writer could have done to make it better? And that's kind of what I use, and the answer has never been yes. I think the highest that I've ever given is I can't remember what it was. I gave something a 9.9. I think it was an episode of Attack on Titan, now that I think of it, and I decided, was this really so great beyond belief that literally nothing could have made it better? And I decided no, so I withheld the 10 and went 9.9.
And I've only give two things in the site, actually ever in my life, 10 out of 10. Midnight Mass on Netflix and The Batman. Am I going to give part 1 Last of Us a 10 out of 10? Probably not. Is it very close to a 10 out of 10? Yes. And this game is so hard to describe. I mean, not really. It's a remake of The Last of Us, the first one, aka part 1. And then there's nothing story-wise, there's nothing gameplay-wise. It is just beautifully, I don't want to say remaster because it'll be like, whoa, is this a remaster? No. It is beautifully like, imagine if you saw an art piece and you decided to sculpted that art piece you're trying to remake. It's the same art piece, but the details that you made with that sculpture is incredible. And I think the only negative I have about the game that I've been saying all along, should this be a $70 game? No. And let me explain that. Noah, when you eventually get a PlayStation in the future, should you, like, let's say you got one for Christmas and The Last of Us Part 1 was $70. Should you get it for $70? Absolutely. Because, of course, you've never played The Last of Us. You can confirm that, right?
I have not.
So, fresh eyes like yourself, $70 is more than worth it. It's an incredible game. It is beautifully developed for the PlayStation 5, and it takes advantage of so many features that it feels truly next gen. And shout out to Max, who was on the podcast last week. I was surprised that he's never played The Last of Us. I'm like, oh yeah, you should definitely play that. And he's like, should I play the remaster or should I wait for the remake? And I'm like, well, I'll figure that out. Max, if you're listening, buy part one. Wait for me. You can wait for it on sale, but hey, you do you. But graphically, it is just so stunning. It's it's so good, Noah. And then, like, this is why it's hard to write this review, because just when I'm like making a point, I'll think about like 5 other things and I'll go on those tangents. And it's so hard to like get focused. And maybe that's just my chaotic mind. So this is more of like me trying to hash it out. And you're just the other person in my mind, Noah. Can you accept my therapy challenge?
I'll accept the therapy challenge.
All right, so let me try to break this down. So, and this is more of like thoughts I had before actually playing the game. So, Last of Us came out in 2013, had a remaster like a year or two later, but yeah, had a remaster that was really great. And then part 2 came out in 2020. As any good gaming sequels, it has to advance a lot of things. Not only the story, but the graphics and the controls and the gameplay. But then you have part 1 coming out 2 years later. So it's kind of like a research thing. They have said like we're using a lot of things we learned from part 2, but using what we're capable for the PlayStation 5. And maybe this is my own fault for not playing a couple levels of part 2, because I played it on PlayStation 4, it transferred to PlayStation 5, and I lost that save. So, whoops. But it's a good excuse because I'm like, oh, I guess I got to play part 2. Should have played it sooner, because hold on, let me just get this PlayStation control just for the viewers. So, probably the best thing about PlayStation 5 is this beautiful DualSense controller. Look at this baddie. Mwah. Gave it a little kiss. They have haptic feedback and adaptive triggers. So if you're, shooting a gun, it has like that resistance of actually like shooting a gun or pulling on a bowl. In part 1, you get that. And another great thing is they have haptic feedback with dialogue, which, to my understanding, is the first I've seen this in any game, but I'm probably wrong. And so what I mean is, so I'm sounding confused, Noah, as you can understand. The vibration from the control as I'm speaking would give like a hesitant like vibration. If I'm angry, I'm going on a rant, then you would feel that in the control as I'm speaking. This is for all dialogue. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And it's so cool. But is that in part 2? I don't know. If it's not in part 2, then it kind of makes the sequel feel, I'm not going to say invalid, because there is like other gameplay features that are not in part 1, but in part 2, like dodging, for example. So that's like, did you do such a good job of part 1 that some features in part 2 that you're expecting, because it's like, oh, it's a sequel, will damper that game? You could make a sequel great, like Assassin's Creed 2 plays so much better than the first. That's expected. But imagine if they remade Assassin's Creed 1, which we'll jump to that news story. a couple years after Assassin's Creed 2, and it plays so much better than 2. Even though the gameplay and the visuals look great, it feels like, oh, it kind of feels like a step backwards. Do you understand, as I'm like Charlie from It's Always Sunny trying to like piece together my review?
Well, in my mind, like I feel like that would be an issue for someone that didn't play the original first one, but for someone that did, like that did play that original, then played the second one, you know, it's more nostalgia for them just playing the remake.
Exactly. And that's kind of the other thing. Like, so let's say the part 2 was released in 2018. This would be 4 years later. Some time has passed since then. Because a lot of people, including myself, have replayed the part 1. I keep saying part 1, so I'm just going to say The Last of Us. No additive, just to say the original. A lot of us played it in part 1. God, I'm going everywhere. Sorry, Jess, you got to edit all this. Love you. Hope your Wi-Fi works. But a lot of us played it in 2020, so it feels relatively fresh. If you are a massive fan of The Last of Us, should you play it? Or at least buy it at full price? I don't know. And the reason is why they're even remaking the game. Well, 2 reasons. 1, money. 2nd, The Last of Us HBO show is coming out next year, early next year. So they already have that in line. People who love the show, who have never played the game, can play that. Corporate synergy. You gotta love it. So basically, did the story change for part 1? No, it did not. Did the actual gameplay? A little bit, but no. There's no added features, but some of the like the enemy control and like AI definitely feels better. Like it's like when you have like companions with you and they do dumb things just because of that's how the engine works. It's like, oh, what are you doing? But it works a lot better in part 1. Now the audio, fantastic. Like if like I have the official like 3D audio headset from PlayStation that I bought, and just hearing everything, it's like so much beauty, and it's also terrifying. Do you know a lot about the game, Noah?
Not really.
So it is you, the first game opens up. It's the dawn of the zombie apocalypse, and what makes this apocalypse, or should I say, zombies, so different that it's actually based on a real thing. They watched this like this Planet Earth special, the developers of the game, and it's this actual like fungi infection in like the ant community, and I don't know of any like other stuff, but it's so freaky and gnarly. So this like fungi like will kill them, but it'll, after you're dead, it will like control them. So imagine that on humans. So some enemies have like fully fungi face, so they can't see anything, but they're I can't even do like the noise. They're like these clicks and just like these like shy. So in these self situations, like you have the 3D audio going around, it really enhances the experience. Then the controls of it, and I'm going to include controls of like haptic feedback. It's amazing. And also because with part 2, they have so much accessibility features that are just mwah, perfection. So rambling, I wish nothing against you, Noah. I wish I had someone who played The Last of Us on the panel because all the people I've talked to outside of the podcast in my real life. They're like, "What is a PlayStation?"
Hmm.
I'm like, "Okay." So in the '90s, and then just 2 hours later, boom, we get to PlayStation 2. But that's enough of that. I
So the
feel like
podcast isn't your real life? This is
the
fake you?
I mean, this basically is like, is this real? Are you watching this, people? I don't know. I feel so bad for Jess. It's like, uh-oh, like we're 16 minutes in the podcast and Mark is questioning reality. We haven't even gotten to the main topic, let alone the news. And keep in mind, no one forced me to take on this reel. I just did it as a challenge. So basically, I have everything laid out, ready to write. It's just more of like turning my ramble mess into writing. So it's actually what's the word for that? Readable.
Hmm.
And I think just the main negative is like the price point for someone who has already played The Last of Us. Now, let's say like you heard so many negative things about part 2, you didn't even touch the OG game, and it's been years and years, like 5 years. You play it right now, you have a PlayStation 5, buy it for $70. If you replayed it for part 2, like in 2020, still fresh in your mind, buy it, but not at full price. If it gets down to $40 for like a holiday sale or like when the show comes out or the show's finale, do it. Absolutely do it. So, whew, that has been my part 1 ramblings. Frustrating, but I will say it's a good frustration. Not my hair. It's actually a nightmare. I have to spend money on hair supplies just to fix it and try to reverse genetics. Last of Us Part 1, fantastic. It's a masterpiece. With an asterisk, but And basically, like before the review, it's like trying to like understand and make an analogy that makes sense. Like I got something with that art thing. I just gotta, just like an actual art piece, sculpt it together. But that's enough of my ramblings for now. So moving on, Noah, I think this might count as a remake. Is it? Or a remaster in this sense? You have been playing the Halo Master Chief Collection. How is that?
Yeah, so I went back to do more custom games and enjoying the custom game browser. Of course, if you're a routine listener, you may have heard my ramblings about how that my beef with the browser and they should just do matchmaking and all that. But it is what it is. So yeah, so it's mainly simple games that end up successful because the player has the power to just go like to enter and leave as they choose. They're not going to bother learning something complicated. That's why people tend to stick to simple game types and self-explanatory concepts because when someone enters and they see something that just looks unfamiliar and they're going to be like I'm not learning something new and they're going to leave. So yeah, so Speed Halo does well. There's a Mexican bull run app that I've been enjoying. That's fun. Yeah.
Dope.
Yeah, it's really like it's funny looking at Halo Reach. Like really, that's the one that everyone sticks to. If really, that's one of the best engines that there is. So everyone likes that. It's funny watching everyone run around in their super military Spartan uniform, just making that sprinting sound, but like they're just playing a game. Like they have no interest in actually killing enemies. They're just running around, running from people driving trucks, trying to make their car go fast down the hill. it's yeah, it's fun. So I've been trying to run some lobbies. I mainly my infection games because like I said, you got to stick to simple game types. Like people are just gonna be like I'm out of here if if they do not understand what's in front of their eyes right off the bat. So I sometimes have this issue with my ghost hunt maps because they use a special fix which makes everything kind of hard to see. It, establishes nighttime. So I use the purple one, and I think it's called old timey to make it as dark but visible as possible. So a lot of people will enter a game, see that, and they're like, "I'm out. Like I refuse to have this quality of vision." But it's essential to the game. That's what makes it so the zombies are scary. So if you haven't played it, my zombies for that are invisible. They have really good camo because my original vision for it was I wanted it to be scary when you got hit. Wanted it to be like a jump scare, like you're creeping around, hoping there's no ghosts around. So that was my vision for it. It ends up playing a bit more like regular alpha zombies, but it's still fun. And I really like how you have to try to sneak up on someone as a zombie, and you have to work with your surroundings, work with your invisibility to make sure they don't see you. So in terms of new maps, I haven't been making anything new recently. I'm kind of busy with my YouTube channel, and there's a lot of great entertainment out. I have not started the new season of Rick and Morty yet, so no spoilers, Mark, if you have.
Oh wait, that actually like already started Rick and Morty season 6?
It should have came.
Oh, dope.
It comes out today. I'm not sure if it's on yet, but today is the day.
Okay, I thought it started next week. Noah and I are just excited for. Okay, so if you're already listening to the podcast, the first episode already came out. Noah and I are just excited for football. That's all I'm focusing on right now. I'm
Yeah,
just
there's
focused on
football.
disappointments and losing money. Sports.
Yeah, but there's also like fantasy out. Like House of the Dragon just came out. There were 2 episodes in, and I started the Rings of Power too. They both. It's interesting how they both kind of succeed and fail in the same areas. They're pretty good. They both well established themselves in the established film universe of each franchise, but like for both of them, like they're still kind of lacking in action. Uh, like it's early on, so you're like, whatever, it'll pick up, and some of the acting is just a bit underwhelming.
You know what? I just had this idea for a podcast. I just want to see how many episodes of each show. Internet, so, internet, so. Okay, so Noah,
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're a big Game of Thrones or The Rings fellow, right?
They're not my. I wouldn't say I'm a master of each franchise like I am
No,
with
I'm
Elder
not saying
Scrolls,
you
but
have
I'm
to be a
familiar. Yeah.
master. Like here, like I hate the people like you know what? I'm a fan of Mario. People are gonna be like, okay, so have you played this game? It's like, okay, I haven't played that game on the Virtual Boy. Doesn't make me like a Mario fan. You know? Have I read the Lord of the Ring and Game of Thrones books? No. Am I still a fan of it because of the movies and TV? Yes. So haters gonna hate, Noah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it'll be so interesting to talk about both shows in one podcast because I feel like they're
Okay. Yeah.
so highly linked, but we can talk about that with everyone afterwards. I'm just throwing that out there so Jess, at least you can remember and put that in the doc. But anyway, back to Invisibles. Oh, we're talking about fantasy, Invisible Zombies. Your map,
The invisible zombies. Yeah. So
as you called
yeah,
it.
as of now, there's free maps for Ghost Hunt. The original two actually started as the same map. For those who don't know, originally Ghost Hunt Avenue and Ghost Hunt Park were kind of meshed together in the one map, and through testing, I decided it was too big, so I separated them. Yeah. So Ghost Hunt Avenue is it's just a street with some houses on it, and you kind of hide and I like the way that one plays out. That it probably not my favorite, but it plays out interestingly, and there's Easter eggs. But that's the thing with Ghost Hunt. Like for those who don't know, I always hide Easter eggs in those. That's what makes it exciting. So there's two ways on each side of the street to get onto the roof. I won't tell you what I won't tell you where they are. They're not hard to find. It really surprises me that no one ever finds them.
You won't even
So
tell me your best friend
uh,
in the whole world?
you, I'll tell you what when we're done recording, Mark. But you
Yes.
don't have an Xbox.
No, yeah. Your secret's safe with me. I'll just forget about it. Be like, oh, where is it now? No one told
Yeah,
me. No one told me.
right. Yeah. So Ghost Hunt Park. So so bear in mind these were made on the 360. Well, yeah, like well on the original Halo Reach. So I had limited storage and not all of the assets that the MCC version has. So Ghost Hunt Park's kind of like it's kind of like a rock quarry. Like the idea is it was meant to be like something you might see in the Mojave Desert, like the rock spires, little caves. So so that one's probably my least favorite, just because I couldn't really go all in on the park stuff because there were no trees at the time it was made. So maybe I'll go back in and add some more things, do a version two. And my favorite, and I think most people's favorite, is Ghost Hunt Manor. That's where I made that big mansion with a lot of rooms. That one also had the big storage issue. I've had to do a lot to accommodate all the assets and make the most of the space. So that one, I'm thinking I'll go back in, do a version two, and kind of make it a bit more exciting. So one of the things I'm envisioning is instead of kind of meshing floors two and three together, because to accommodate space, I had to make it so if you're not the developer, this might not make sense to you. And let's say like this pencil is the floor between floors two and three. I kind of had to put and the phone is a block asset. I kind of had to use one asset to do the walls for both floors just to save storage space. So that's why they kind of end up looking the same. So I think I'll go back in and change that so they don't end up the same. And I'm thinking of adding more Easter eggs to that. Yeah, I have some exciting ideas for ways you can hide little secrets around the manor. And new maps, I'm not envisioning new new maps right now. What There are some ideas that I never made that I could go back and make. I always wanted to do a ghost hunt mine. Like you're inside like mine shafts and stuff like that. That I think would be cool. And I also had an idea for like Ghost Hunt Canyon, where it's all built into like the side of a mountain. Yeah. So that could be cool. And yeah, I'm not I'm not thinking of any more complicated concepts right now. That because like I said, like I try to do things like invasion, but people tend just not to bite on it in the custom game browser. So yeah, so you have to stick to really simple game types. So infection is your friend. I've also seen some maps where I suspect that the author stole the idea from me, but actually made it better than mine. because because again, like most of my stuff was made on the 360. There's the sharks and minnows map that most people have is not mine. So yeah, but I mean that's not really an original idea. That they may not have really stolen it from me, but a lot of people prefer theirs to mine. So oh well. And I forget what it's called. There's a variant of rent a car where you drive your warthog around this circle that's kind of like it looks like a bowl, and you have to try not to fall in. Yeah, that's I made a map very much like that, called I think I just called it Warthog Spiral, but I could never really get it to function that well. So whoever made this new one, kudos. It's better than mine ever was.
All right. So that was my nonsense rambling and Noah's map making, which I'm very excited to hear about more in the future. But let's move on to the news. So in our first news story, I feel like, well, not the first time. I feel like this is the first time in depth we heard from Phil Spencer talking about the Activision Blizzard acquisition. Activision. Gotta love words of A's. Get that out, Jess. I'm so sorry. It just threw me through a loop. It was just, anyway. So he talked about in depth, most importantly, how franchises like Overwatch, Diablo, Call of Duty will be on Game Pass. I don't know if he definitively said day one. I mean, it probably will be day one, but for which games, we don't know. But most importantly, it will be day one for PlayStation. It won't be a timed exclusive a la Deathloop on PlayStation. So, Noah, you're my Xbox guy. What do you think?
So to me, the major surprise was they do intend to roll it out on PlayStation, uh, which to me was like really so millions and millions of dollars. Now you are gonna do this on PlayStation 2. So yeah, congratulations, PlayStation fans. You've got
Wait, do you mean millions and millions of dollars that they could have had from Xbox? Millions of dollars that they spent on Activision?
yeah,
Like,
that they spent on Activision.
although they'll
Yeah.
earn it all back in 5 years.
Yep, they will.
Because Call of Duty
Microsoft.
is just such a huge franchise. Like Warzone was like one of the most profited games from like last year or 2 years before that, which kind
Mhm.
of made me feel a little sick inside. It's like, that game. So I get it. Like,
Yeah,
just having it on one console is super tempting, or at least a timed exclusive. But any avenue of revenue you can get.
yeah, right. So yeah, and like with the console war not like over, like that's not really the time for exclusives, is it?
Meanwhile, I'm a PlayStation
Yeah.
guy, and it's like, hey, is The Last of Us Part One on Xbox? And it's like, it will never be on Xbox. I
Hmm.
mean, never say never, but no.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm also very intrigued by the expansions on that mobile games have been making. Like
Same here.
yeah, he spends a lot of time talking. Well, the article spends a lot of time on that. So I'm wondering if part of that expansion is if we're going to start seeing like there's gaming PCs, are we going to start seeing gaming smartphones? I feel like that's a potential avenue for profit because who's going to make those? Microsoft is.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
that would be amazing. I mean, we're so close. I mean, we have the gaming backbone controllers,
yeah,
so
exactly.
why not that?
Yeah, with
And
smartphone optimized for gaming.
oh, that would be so dope.
Yeah,
And honestly, like, even though I was one of the ones who like made fun of like when they're like Activision, like the big news, like they acquired it, they're like, yeah, Call of Duty, Overwatch, Diablo, Candy Crush. And it's like, okay, you kind of lost me with that Candy Crush. And then you see how much Candy Crush makes, and it's like, I don't want to live in this world anymore.
yeah, yeah, kind of because well, that's because like it people see that more as like an app than a video game. Like moms play that.
Yeah, and technically,
So,
which I know my dad hates, I'm like, you're playing a video game. He's, I'm not playing a video game. It's an app. I'm like, no, no, no. But what if I told you you are playing a game a la video?
yeah,
Try to piece together, video game. It's a video
uh,
game.
yeah,
But just of how much like the expansion and the possibilities, because if Xbox, like, of course, all the consoles are in the mobile business, but it's like, what's that next push? This could be like, Noah, you ever heard of like the space race in history?
Yeah, I have, yes.
Of how like, and a side note, I really gotta watch For All Mankind. It's on Apple TV Plus, alternate history. Anyway, so it's kind of like a competition. It's like, oh, this they have Sputnik, we got to go on the moon, and all this. And I probably butchered the whole space race. Sorry, historians listening to the podcast. I love you, but if Xbox advances the mobile race, what is Sony going to bring up? Is Nintendo, what are they going to do? Who
So it's
knows?
interesting that you bring that up, because what one thing I was going to add is it's interesting that Nintendo has been in on the mobile expansion, because they're usually last on the curb for everything. You know, like
But
we
yet
don't
again,
need
they're
the
last on the curve, and but people like me will be like, Nintendo, you're like a
yeah,
grandparent in all this. It's like, you know who
yeah,
you're still in it. I love you. Me ma Nintendo.
yeah. It's like
Hashtag me mom Nintendo.
yeah, and they don't even try to compete. Their consoles is like a different thing than Sony and Microsoft.
Which I gotta respect that.
Yeah, they succeed on it.
But anyway, I'm glad you brought up that the whole mobile, because it's like it's not really a shock for me reading it like, hey, it's gonna be day one on PlayStation. Because I know we talk about like God of War, The Last of Us, Spider-Man. Well, maybe not Spider-Man. These franchises are exclusive to Sony. And yeah, they can make more money, but yet again, that's why people buy PlayStation. But with like Xbox, like the Activision, like Call of Duty, it's something more than that. Does that make sense? It's like whether you made it exclusive to Sony or Microsoft, you make it exclusive to one place, people are gonna flip out.
Yep, they are.
And honestly, it would probably be losing money for you. Just, more revenue in other places, but
Yeah, it's sacrificing game revenue for console revenue. Really, you know, that's what an exclusive is. It's trying to encourage people to buy your console. But like I said, now that the release of the current gen consoles was a few years ago, it's like everyone kind of has what they have already.
exactly. What I'm trying to say is like, yeah, like there's franchise exclusives, but somehow, and that's what made the Activision news so shocking for a lot of different reasons. They don't feel like exclusive franchises. And now they're owned by Microsoft. Maketh sense.
Hmm.
But I'm real glad we got a blog post out of this and a lot more detail, because anytime Phil Spencer talks or writes something, I'll read it, I'll listen to it. Just talk to me, Phil. Just talk to me. But moving on and to our next story, I'm so happy, Noah, that you brought up Halo, because this works so well to our next story. Noah, do you want good news or bad news?
You know, when it comes to, to Microsoft, let's do bad news first.
So, the bad news, split screen co-op is canceled.
Yeah,
It's
canceled
done.
indefinitely.
Exactly. It's not like, it'll come back. And nope, something that was so famous for this franchise that I'm not a Halo guy. I've never played Halo, but I know how like exclusive that whole split screen co-op is. Like it feels
Yeah,
iconic.
yeah.
Uh
Halo
Canceled.
Combat Evolved was the first major franchise to have it.
But good news, we like to bring the good news on this podcast. Forge mode is coming in November, November 8th. Woo! Did that make it up for you, Noah?
Well, it I'd say that's still a little bit later than people were expecting, but
Yeah, kind of.
it is what it is. I'm happy to give Forge a try, though. I find it like I'm confused, like as to how they're intending to have to have people play both this and the MCC custom game browser, because in my mind, like unless you're going to have that in Infinite, people are just going to stick with MCC.
I mean, that is also true. But yet again, it's like the Forge. Is it Forage? Forge.
Forge,
I don't
it's
know why I'm
Forge.
saying forage. Like I'm foraging for supplies in the woods. But yet again, I can make that mode in forage mode. Wait,
Yeah.
I like it. You're talking about making like ghost hunting in the mines in the shaft. I'm like, what if we just hunt for berries?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a lot of times it like developers are frequently surprised how gamers will obsess over something simple. you know, yeah, yeah,
It's
like
kind of like the stories you hear. It's like, um, you get a kid like, I got you this brand new bike, like little kids, like 4 or 5, like, I got you this big fancy thing. It comes in this big box, and they're like, oh my god, a box. And they play inside
box.
the box. It's like, no, 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 stop it.
Yeah,
We want you to do like this complex, awesome thing, and you're picking berries.
yeah.
Noah, for Christmas, can you make forage mode for me in forage mode?
I'm
A try.
trying to think how that would work. I guess you'd do King of the Hill, uh, and that you have to find the berries, aka the hill, really fast.
I
Or you
you,
could do stockpile. Yeah, stockpile. Yeah, with flags.
can you steal stockpiles?
I think you can. That's not a game type I work with. There's a lot of game types in Halo that no one ever really uses, and that's one of them. But yeah, like a lot of times, like there's another map of mine, Shield. I think it's called Shield Room, that has a number of game types that work with it, and one of them is Headhunter, where when you kill someone, they drop these skulls, and you have to pick them up and deliver them to a certain point. And a lot of people just have never seen that before because no one ever uses it, so they just kill each other not knowing what to do.
Fair enough. So overall, good, bad news, good news. What's your overall thoughts? Like, are you excited
Uh,
about Forge mode, or you're just so disappointed by? Did you even use split screen co-op?
Not really. I don't have a whole lot of gamer friends. Most of my friends are, they're like working
Philosophy majors.
folks. Yeah. Well, it we I actually don't talk to them as often as I should. Well, when like philosophers kind of just understand each other, they don't need to talk all the time. I don't know.
Hashtag philosophy problems. Am I right?
Yeah. So what was that? So am I excited? I'd say the chance for Infinite to be as successful as Microsoft wants it to be is in Forge. If they execute this, this is the chance to bring a lot of people into Infinite. Because most people, like including myself, are kind of at this point in Halo Infinite where we're like, don't hate it, don't love it, and that you don't really wake up in the morning wanting to play it. Like you don't really, it's not something you crave, if that makes sense. So Forge is their chance to draw people in. Like they're going to need a custom game, something that I like I keep saying, just do matchmaking. Stop with the stupid browser. Just choose the matchmaking problems over the browser problems. That's the better choice. So yeah, it's it. But with that, there need to be some system with coming and going. Like you need to reward people for staying longer but you can't prevent them from leaving because some of these things are going to suck. They're maps made by fans. Some are going to be really bad, and when people join, they're to be like, I don't want to play this. But yeah, so there needs to be some system for that, something that incentivizes staying, but you can't block people from leaving. So that's the tough line to walk. But ultimately, that's better than this browser. It forces people to learn new things, and will make it so they'll bother with complicated game types like invasion. Yeah, yeah. So let's do custom game matchmaking. And I guess the main concern is, from what I've seen of it so far, it looks really hard. Like, in order to give forgers, give players a lot of command over how maps work, like they had to make this thing really complicated. That's at least what it looks like to me. So yeah. So I'd say that's the primary concern there, is that like not everyone's really going to be able to work with this thing because it's just too much. But I guess it's a risk they have to take, because otherwise it's just going to be like the MCC Forge, and people are just going to keep playing that one because they like the Halo Reach engine. So yeah, so like this is your chance, Microsoft. You got to execute this.
But will they? That's the question.
I'm kind of leaning towards no, but I'll try it.
Well, we'll try to be optimistic. Hopefully it works
Yeah.
out, but who knows? Anyway, on to our last story. Noah, Ubisoft being Ubisoft. They have this big September 10th event. They're gonna, this is the 15-year of Assassin's Creed. They have, all this retrospective, all the things that just make you, feel great if you're a fan. And then they're going to talk about the future of Assassin's Creed. They've been hyping it for like a month and a half. And guess what? It leaks. It
Of course
leaks.
it does. Yeah, of
Oh,
course
it
it leaks.
does. And I love the, I forget which site. Maybe it was IGN. I don't know. But let me pull up the tweet from Ubisoft, because I have another tweet that talks about more of the leak. The from the Assassin's Creed page, Assassin's Creed. Noah, how do you pronounce this? M.I. Rage.
I think that's Mirage.
Mirage. I'm like,
Assassin's Creed Mirage.
Mirage? Mirage. Oh, I like that. It's the next Assassin's Creed game. And someone commented, like, you just hear the side of like, yeah, it's the next game. So at Ubisoft Forward, you're going to hear more about that September 10th, but they officially confirmed that as the game. So before that, a lot of details about the game have emerged. Here's a couple of things. And they got a couple of things right. Okay, they got one thing right, the title. We don't know about the rest, but I feel like, I think they got that too. This game will take place in Baghdad during the anarchy of I'm just gonna butcher it. Apologies. So multiple cities to explore, separated by desert and rivers, like the kingdom of Assassin's Creed 1. This game will be in bold, return to basics with strong inspiration from the first Assassin's Creed, which means, next bullet, several RPG elements removed, no more dialogue choices, no gender choice, this will be a fixed character, and no level system. There will be eagle visions back, but you also have the drone bird. It'll be a little less raw compared to Valhalla, and this is a big one. And this will work into the main topic. Ubisoft is preparing for a remake of the first Assassin's Creed, which is huge. And they said AC1 remake should be integrated into a season pass, which would also include the DLC of Constantinople and other things. So what I just mentioned, they're all rumors, but I feel like they're strong rumors. How do you feel, Noah?
So in my mind, what comes to mind is why you're doing this new game heavily based on the original Assassin's Creed if you're remaking that game. Like to me that's like why do both things? So and also I feel like the Assassin's Creed that did the best that I hear most often that people talking about, people loving, is Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. So if you're gonna go back and base a new one off of a previous Assassin's Creed with like those mechanics, then why not use that one?
I get that. I mean, is Brotherhood probably the best, like a lot of people's near top or the number one game? Yes. Um, I feel like just, and this is from like the league, and I feel like Ubisoft is really going to say like we're taking inspiration from the very first game as more of like a symbolic thing. No one's going to be like we're taking it from Brotherhood or even the second one. It's like, well, that sounds great. Actually, fans would probably be more excited, but I feel like it has a little more pizzazz. You know what I mean? Like we're taking inspiration from 15 years ago. Again, big anniversary, 15-year, and also the gameplay mechanics will be featured in the AC1 remake. So, if I guess that makes sense. And honestly, does this make me excited for the Ubisoft Forward thing? Because it's like, okay, please tell me this won't be like a CGI trailer. Like, give me gameplay. What are we working here? Am I expecting a CGI trailer only? Yeah. Yeah, I am. But oh well. And I think something that is fascinating. So for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, in the DLC, like season pass, they included a remaster of Assassin's Creed 3. But now having a full-fledged remake in your season pass, which I know Ubisoft season passes are stupid expensive. It's basically the price of the full game. That that makes it, sweeten the deal a lot. So who knows?
Yeah, so yeah, who knows? Also, another thing that comes to mind is based on the mechanics that I'm hearing, like no dialogue choices, a static character, heavily like stealth gameplay based. It sounds easy. So it sounds like there's not a huge gateway open for like bugs or performance issues.
Oh, Ubisoft will try, Noah,
Yeah, they'll try.
but um, it is definitely like I feel like this will bring like a lot of like celebration to Assassin's Creed because it's all interesting of how like from one to oh god, what was the game? The London-based Syndicate. It felt like the new Call of Duty, like, oh, you're just peddling out this new game every year. And then they took like a giant step, like, not back, but like, all right, let's just pause for a year. Let's really redesign the game. And they brought a lot more RPG elements to the game. And now people are getting sick of that. And they're like, hey, you know, the thing that you got sick of before you got sick of the thing you're now? Ah? So you gotta love it. And then 10 years from now, Noah, people will be sick of these new elements. So they'll go back to the RPG elements. And the cycle repeats. Snake eat tail.
Yep.
Did you learn about that? Snake eats tail? Was that philosophy or is that something else?
I'm not familiar with that saying.
Fair enough. I just say that saying because it makes me sound a little more smarter than I'm not. But hey, I'm excited for this, and this actually makes me more interested, not in the main like Mirage. How's the remake gonna look? But hey, Noah, speaking of remakes, we got our main topic, and boom, transition 8.5 out of 10. Because our main topic, in honor of The Last of Us Part 1, we'll be talking about our favorite gaming remakes. And I forget when we did this episode, or even if were you featured in that episode, Noah? What games we wanted remakes of?
I think I was in that.
Okay. It's so hard trying to keep track. We have so many new people. I'm like, wait, so you are in this episode and you're in so many other episodes, Noah, that I'm like, Noah's in that one. So this isn't our wish list. These are the games that got remade, all in its glory. And just to recap, what is a remaster versus a remake? I feel like a remaster is a port of a game. So to use Assassin's Creed, the Ezio collection, it was Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, and Revelations bundle up together to the next generation. A lot of cosmetic touch-ups, but a lot of things the same. It wasn't from the ground up. It was more of like just erasing some things, adding little things. And when I say remaster, like, of course, a lot of work went into it, but to remake a game from the ground up is like making a new game. So in honor of that, we'll be talking about our favorite gaming remakes. Noah, I want to start with you.
Yeah, so first and agree with you. I'd say the difference between a remaster and a remake is a remaster is a port, and then the remake is you're starting from the ground up and like a new maybe not a new engine, but you're not porting it. Yeah, so that's
Mhm.
about right. Yeah, I'd say yeah. So are we doing two or three? Because that's going to affect the order I do these.
I forgot to mention that a little behind the scenes. We usually do two, but I think since it's just the two of us, let's do three.
Oh, all right. So
And
so
then we
my
have honorable
first.
mentions as well, but we'll save that at the end. So
Right.
Noah,
Yeah.
what is
So
your number three?
I'll do the predictable one first. So, do you have a guess, Mark?
Is it the Master Chief Collection?
It's not.
You know what? You were teasing this in the Slack, and everyone's like, "Oh, like I know what it is," and I'm like, "I'm such an idiot. What is it?"
Yeah. Well, this is really more remaster than a remake. If that helps.
Hey, it's your list.
Yeah. So it is the Skyrim Special Edition.
I kind of knew that, but I'm like, is it? Is it not? But you know what? With so many mods in that game, you could basically remake the game. So,
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, so I play that. I mean, like when I first got that, I was like, all right, spending even more money on Skyrim. Yeah, and yeah, so going in, I was like, am I going to be able to pick up old saves? And discovered no, and I'm like, that's all right. I'll just play Skyrim again. And that'll be great. And I did many more times. Yeah, so yeah, it's I wouldn't say the cosmetic differences are really as great as Bethesda could claim them to be. But who cares if you're playing Skyrim? It's great, and you get mods. Yeah, so the mods are how you keep it fresh. Like even now, new mods are coming out, and you play them, and it's like, this is interesting. Like this is more that like that, and that's how you make it worth your money. Like you're essentially getting free amateur made games like through these mods, and then it's great. And that's got to be why it's one of my favorite remakes slash remasters.
And shout out, okay, um, Noah, if you shout out something, but it's negative, what do you call that?
Shout out, call out, a call
I
out.
want to call out,
Yeah.
I don't know who to blame, but uh damn, Sony has, do they have mods? Yes. Do they have none of the good mods? Yes. They have I feel like we talked about that in a also an episode, like there's mods, but there's not a lot of good mods. Like just a random tangent. I played Fallout 4 on the Xbox One like years ago, and they had this great mod on the radio. It would be like old serials of Superman, and I'm like, that's so cool. And then it's on PlayStation Plus. I'm like, I want it again. And then Sony's like, you, you want that? Eh, Microsoft only and PC. But anyway, I love that pick, and I feel like Skyrim, the special edition, like when they announced, like, hey, it's coming to well, when they announced it, like next gen, the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, we're also having mods. And I'm like, console mods? Bro. Because of course we've seen all like the GTA 5 mods and everything like that, but to have like a console mod that made of like, oh, all right, here's my money, take it. So is it a remaster? Yes. Can you remake the game? Absolutely. Because one of the best mods from that game um is like choose how you start. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
like, instead of like you're in the car talking to, you're a prisoner, it's like, hey, this is how you can like start the game out different and just completely change everything. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, I think it's called alternative start or alternate start. Yeah,
Something
I
like
use
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
like that a
awesome.
lot. Yeah. It enhances role playing, really does.
So, is it a tricky number 3, Noah? Yes. But do I love it? And does it hold up in the court of law? KeenGamer law? Yes. So, bravo.
Mm.
So, on to my number 3. So I have a interesting 3 selections. And this is how I classify them. I chose a game that I played before and then I played the remake. A game I've never played. Like I played the remake first, then went back and played the OG game, and then I played the remake and I have not played the OG at all. So I'm going to start with the second. I played the remake first, and then years later I played the OG. That is Super Mario 64 DS. The reason why I think it is beautifully done on the DS. Yes, there is some like system faults, like the just an analog, like joystick, but you have to plus, like the pads. It sucked. I didn't notice it at the time, but looking back, I'm like, ooh, that wasn't good. But then when they brought it for the Wii U via Virtual Console, awesome, because they actually had like the joystick. And it felt like the complete version of Super Mario. And not only like a gameplay, like instead of Mario, you got Yoshi, you got Luigi, you got Wario. Okay, I love Wario. Weird choice, but I love it.
Mhm.
And not only that, like they had so many levels for the 64 that they couldn't do because of like console limitations. So all the unused like ideas and levels that they did have, they brought it over to the DS, which is so cool. So definitively, it feels like the actual like this is Super Mario 64 DS. And if you're like a three, like, and then going back and playing the original game, like if it feels so different, but it's not. I mean, I think it's mostly like the art style, but yet again, it's like Mima Nintendo. It's like, oh my gosh, like you look at pictures of like your grandparents, like, oh my god, that was you in the 90s? That's so crazy. Great Jija. Oh my gosh. Like, I don't know, like both versions are great, but I feel like the respect they had for the original and like, hey, here's the things that you couldn't do. We're gonna do it right now. That makes it special looking back on it. And besides, like, I really wanted a DS as a kid, and that was the main game I wanted. So it was odd looking at the original game and being like, "Oh, I can play that." And then you're seeing like I was just like a kid, like like those film theory like videos on YouTube, Noah. They're
I
like,
do
it's
those.
like it's like, did a X-Men make a secret cameo in She-Hulk? And they're like breaking down like bits and bits, and it's just like they're doing it for the views. I just did it because I was like, oh my god, is this gonna be in the DS version? But that's my number three. Noah, what is your number two?
So believe it or not, that was going to be my number two. Uh,
No
yeah,
way.
yeah, we had a cross. So since you talked about that one, I'll talk about 3D All Stars because that's again more a remaster. But let's talk about that one too. So
Hey, any excuse to talk about 3D All Stars, I'm in.
yeah, yeah. So I guess the biggest surprise with that one is that they didn't use the DS64. They used the original one, which like you gotta love both games. But yeah, they increased the resolution. I wouldn't say I noticed that much, but yeah, like it was great hopping back in playing the old Mario games. I believe it's the first time that Sunshine was redistributed. So
Yep. And I was so happy about that one.
yeah, and what made that one great is the Switch controller isn't that far off from a GameCube controller. Didn't feel that different to play. Yeah, so yeah, and it was portable. Yeah, and yeah, it was just fantastic, and I really like that it tracks your progress. Like it does. I love when games like that do completion percentages to tell you like if you're missing something.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I hundoed all those all star collections because I'm a completionist. I do that. So yeah, that was fun. Sunshine that was a great game. A lot of people want like another game like that, and I could see Nintendo going in that direction for the next Mario RPG. And I'm hoping that the next Mario Kart is Double Dash too, but that might only ever be hope. Seems like they want to sell the current Mario Kart forever. So I don't know. Yeah, and then you got the first Galaxy. I love the first Galaxy. To me, like that's one of the most complete Mario games that there is. Like a really enchanting story. You have to kind of put it together. Like okay, so it's a play on how Mario's never really sequential. It's just this beautiful cycle of this universe being made, then unmade, and it starts with this Luma. And the Luma's kind of like it's like a child starts with a new generation, someone in that little ship finding their way through Mario. It was great. Yes, so I love playing that again.
I want to say one negative about the game, and I'm still pissed about it. No Galaxy 2?
That they're oh well, you mean in the collection? Yeah, but
Yeah.
it, but yeah, I feel what you're saying there, but that I think
Don't make an excuse for me, my Nintendo. They messed up.
well, wasn't that kind of a bigger game though? Like,
But here's like you
yeah,
really like Nintendo's like it's kind of like erasing. Like we don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about Galaxy 2. And was it a bigger game? Yes, but could they have made it work? Yeah.
They could have, yeah.
Like they used
Yeah,
a lot of stuff from the first Galaxy. So maybe for like a file thing, I don't know. Like you could have made it work.
they could have. Yeah, I guess that they were probably thinking like the storage space in that game was like that was only one console ago. It might be when they were thinking, and I feel like people tend to prefer the first one. Yeah, it's been a while since I went back and played Galaxy 2.
Galaxy 2, one of my favorite games of all time. But you know what? At least with the first Galaxy, like I'm surprised how well it played on the Switch. AKA like the when it's docked and you're playing with the Joy Cons and it feels like a Wii remote. Like it felt seamless.
Yeah,
And even playing it like docked and using that to like correct the star bits, very cool. And just like how great Sunshine still looks to this day, HD. Come on.
yeah, and voiced characters, Mario.
Yeah. You know what? I feel like Nintendo's like, all right, let's just dip the audience like toes into the pool before we get Chris Pratt as Mario.
Yeah,
Who I wonder, oh my god, I can't wait until that movie. I just can't wait until we get something. This still feels like a fever dream.
yeah, it'll be. You should do a game in conjunction with it, like you were saying, like their mere what The Last of Us, like with the show coming out, the game coming out.
I mean, they kind of did it with what was it? It's not on my list on mentions Ratchet and Clank. They
Ratchet,
remade
yeah,
the first Ratchet and Clank in conjunction and combined like plot elements with the movie, which I think was probably based on the movie was based on the first game, and then they remade that first game into the game with part of the movie. But they could have done. What if they did that with 64? They used the same like Mario like Odyssey. Like even though I said 64 was like like the DS was a complete game, doesn't mean you can update the graphics. You know what I mean?
yeah, right. So what else was I gonna say? And, oh, are you done? That I don't want to change topics if you're not done yet.
Oh no, period. That was it.
All right. So, like a lot of people like I call it the Toadsworth era. Like that's kind of like feel like people refer to it as like the Sunshine era. More was, like the later GameCube years. I feel like, and there's a lot of great Mario content in there. Just with Toadsworth, okay, kind of being like the Papa Toad dude. Like it starts with Sunshine, and let's see what else does Toadsworth do. Well, I mean, that was kind of during Double Dash. Yeah, yeah, Toadsworth's in that. Yeah, he
Mhm.
drives that golden car at the end. So that just living Mario up like that was great. I was not a fan of Mario Party 7. Really, to me, that's one of the lesser Mario parties. But uh, because like that stupid Bowser time thing, like just ruins it. Like what were they thinking? It was
Hey, what
terrible.
if Mario went to Venice? It's like, what?
Yeah,
Which
went to
actually should
Venice.
have been amazing, but oh well.
Yeah, like real places in Odyssey, not spoofs.
Yeah, it's not like a fake Egypt. It's like, what if he visit uh
Yeah.
but anything else before I move on to my number two?
Nothing else.
So going to a game that I've played. Oh, shoot. What was it? Oh, this was a game that I played before, then played the remake. That's Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I feel like, is it unfair to say this as a remake? Let me explain. So they're coming out with Rebirth, and then they'll have a next follow up, and that will be the trilogy of remake games for the remaking Final Fantasy VII. What if the second and third ones are not as good? You know what? I still say the first game of FF7 Remake is fantastic. You took just this little area, like the first couple hours of the OG game, that were already compelling, great section, and you made that a full-fledged game, and it sounds like a disaster. Like, oh, was it all like filler? No, the city of Midgar looks fantastic. The slums of Sector 7. Everyone gets a lot more characterization, even like side characters that you kind of forgot about as the game went on in the first one. Because spoilers, they died. Um, it's like the Titanic. You know these people are gonna die, but you fall in love with them. It's like, Donna, you see the iceberg coming, or at least you know what happens in the remake. In the OG game, it's like, can we just stick with them for like a couple more chapters? Like that kind of passion and care is really great. And without saying too much, because A, it's spoilers, B, it's way too complicated. They have this plot element of like these ghost spirit like creatures that something different happens in the game from the OG, but they'll still try to fix it. And it becomes like a destiny, like fate kind of thing, but it's also a commentary on how fans view like when they see remakes and how precious they are about that. So it's like on a meta level. It's great. It really is. And that's why I'm excited. I don't know when we're getting it. I don't know what this or next winter is. I hate it, Noah. I hate it. But for Rebirth, I'm all in. So that's my number 2. Noah, what is your number 1?
So
Was it Final Fantasy VII Remake? Did I spoil that one for you too?
No, it wasn't. So my number 1 is going to be Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. So
Nice.
yeah, so this was like people when you hear remake and you think of the Pokemon remakes, you kind of feel like okay, like they're making money again. Like what's to remake about a Pokemon game besides adding new Pokemon and enhancing the graphics? Well, in this one, they expanded and they did that Delta episode thing with Rayquaza and they added a Mega Evolution, the new mechanic. So and there were new Mega Evolutions in addition to the ones that X and Y established. They added some to the classic Pokemon. So I'm not a huge fan of those gimmicks, but I mean it was something new to play with. Yeah, that it was in there, and I think the Elite Four used it even, yeah, which was interesting to see. They expanded it in this remake, made it different enough from the original games that you didn't even mind that it wasn't Emerald really that much because they gave you that Delta episode with Rayquaza. So you got something new in addition to experiencing walking through Hoenn once again. So yeah, so that's one of my favorite remakes. What with my Pokemon for I don't think I've ever explained, Mark. I have a pretty impressive collection of digital Pokemon.
You
Yeah,
don't like to
so
brag about it. I totally understand. You're humble. I respect that.
yeah, well, yeah, I don't mention it to many people. So for a while, I kept mine in there in my Omega Ruby game because like Gen 7 came out and I just wasn't about it. I was like, I just do not like this as much. So me and my friends just kept battling in Ruby and Sapphire because it was the first time we were like, you know what, we are staying in Gen 6. We prefer this over Gen 7. Yeah, so yeah, and then Sword and Shield came out, and you couldn't have all the Pokemon. So I was like, well, I'm not moving them there if I can't move all of them. I want them to stay together. So I kept them in Gen 6. And now I did actually move them to Pokemon Home just because now you can at least have the vast majority of them in there, so they're still kind of together, and that way I could replay Omega Ruby at long last. So yeah, so they're yeah, they're not all in Pokemon Home. They're like distributed into the games essentially. So yeah, and with Scarlet and Violet coming out, I'll have some fun with that. I'll try my best to keep like I tend to keep like my squads per playthrough together. Like you roll through Pokemon with your core six, so I try to keep each group of six together, so I don't forget the playthroughs. If you get what I mean. Like I remember what teams I used for each one. I kind of try to keep them together. Yeah. So yeah. Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. Gotta be my favorite remake right there.
Love it. Yeah. So for my number one, and to clarify, when I mean games that so this game, I played the remake. I've not played the OG game. Doesn't mean I won't play it in the future. But for right now, that Demon Souls remake is just top tier beauty. And the Demon Souls remake came from Blue Point Games. They recently got, a year ago, so I wouldn't say as recent, but they got acquired by Sony. They've remaked Shadow of Colossus. They did a lot of like remastering collections. Like these guys are skilled, like masters in that department. And I still remember being on this podcast, like for Black Friday, I bought Demon Souls. Like I didn't know like how it would be. It was just on sale. And the previous host, Kyle Shamor, shout out, love you. He said, dude, you gotta play it. It's the best PlayStation 5 game. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, it really like shows what the PlayStation 5's all about. And I played it, and I've not played any Soul games before that. Blown away. Because it's like somehow they took a game that, like, what if we still preserve the challenge? We fix up a couple of things. Like, there's challenge, and then there's like limitations at the time. Like, they fixed that up. You beautifully develop this whole new world that looks stunning. The enemies, the dragons, the monsters, even just like the skeleton, like basic creatures look amazing, but you still kept the spirit of the game. They could have introduced like difficulty, like, hey, this is easy mode. No. This is a From Software game. We got to respect that. And I forget what they like said about this, but they're like, this is art. This is like us preserving art whenever you're making a game. And they did it fantastically. If you have a PlayStation 5 and you have a PlayStation Plus Premium, it's on there. Go play it. I didn't play a Souls game before that. It's going to be very challenging at first, but you're really going to appreciate it. So that's our list. Noah, did you have any honorable mentions?
Yeah, well, yeah, I thought of Halo Master Chief Collection, but I talked about that in the beginning, so I was like, I'll skip that one for the list.
It's not my honorable mention. I just know Jessica Orr would have said Resident Evil 2 or any of the remakes. So for that, because I know she'll be like, oh, no one mentioned that. Jessica, You're welcome.
Yeah. LeChonk.
LeChonk. I'm sorry, Jess. That Pokemon really did not stand out to me. Unlike the what is it? The brioche bread Pokemon.
Fido. Yeah, Fido,
Come
the bread dog.
on.
Yeah.
It's so adorable and makes me hungry.
Yeah.
And I already mentioned it, the Ratchet and Crank 2016 remake / movie tie-in that's my first Ratchet and Crank game, and it is real good. But that's our list. And that concludes our episode. Noah, what's going on with you? What's going on the YouTube channel?
Things are going very, very well. My last video really hit it big, and I am up to 438 subscribers.
And if you're listening right now, turn that to 440.
Yeah, so I'm pleased with how that's going. That for those who don't know, my YouTube channel is the Black Rose. It should be a lot higher on your search query now because of those subs. Subs help me out. I've got to reach 1,000 to get monetized, and I appreciate everyone that does it. Currently, I should be doing a video next week. This week I haven't picked the topic yet, but this weekend I've been hard at work on social accounts. So those will be rolling out in conjunction with the next video. It's going to be exciting. I didn't realize how difficult making a Discord server was, but yeah, it'll get done.
All right. You can follow me on Twitter at LowMarco512. It's one of those things, like, every time I shout out my Twitter, it's like, man, I really don't tweet a lot. I'm on Twitter a lot, but I don't tweet a lot. One of these things will change. Go on KeenGamer.com. You can find a lot of great news pieces, all up-to-date opinion pieces, reviews. My Last of Us Part 1 review will be up there. Should be on the homepage. You can find us on, if you're not already on Spotify, go on Spotify, search up KeenGamer Podcasts, rate us 5 stars. Same thing on Apple Podcasts, rate us 5 stars. It helps us bump us in the charts so more lovely people like yourself can listen. Noah, this has been the KeenGamer Podcast. We'll be back next week as we try to rush this podcast so we can watch day 1 NFL games. Let's go. Nah, just kidding. We won't rush. I mean, we start at 10. I mean, it'll be 3 hours at max. We got this.
Yeah, we'll be right on time. We'll have our Popeyes ready and have the game begin.
Is that your game day snack?
Yeah, I think that's what's going to be my game day snack. Yeah.
I don't know what my game day snack is. I think I'm gonna buy a lot of Buffalo Wild Wings. I have some gift cards I never used, right? Yeah. And then it'll be leftover. Which I gotta say, it's a lot better leftover than fresh. Sponsor us, Buffalo Wild Wings. We would love you forever.
I love their Parmesan garlic wings. Those are my favorite. Yeah. Yeah.
Noah, Super Mario 64 DS, Parmesan garlic. I just know my boss right now is like, Mark, you stuck the landing. Why couldn't you just end the podcast? You didn't even end the podcast yet. Well, guess what? I'm ending it right now. No, I'm not. Parmesan garlic is the best. Mango habanero, second best. A little sweet, and then it just ramps up the spicy. Okay, that is it. This has been the KeenGamer Podcast. We hope you have a great day.